In half an hour here on 2, Food and Drink looks at decaffeinated teas, food labelling and new alternatives to freezing. First, the role of art centres here in the West Country. Their brief is Art for All.
It's a fairly straightforward process to provide the ingredients for a successful art centre. A little bit of touring professional theatre there, an exhibition programme here, a programme of classes there, and then to put all these into a pot and to make a brew out of them. But if something more than the sum of the parts is going to happen, there has to be a sort of magician there who utters a spell over the mixture, and you end up with a magic brew which is somehow transmuted into something much more the sum of those parts than the sum of those parts. And that really is always what we're looking for, and it depends more often than not on one single charismatic figure who makes an art centre work or doesn't, as the case may be. And I think in the case of all the 4 art centres that we're looking at, such a charismatic figure is to be found.
I don't think that's very fitting behaviour in your funeral suit.
Why not? It's my suit for all seasons.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Leonard, come on. You can't sit out here. They'll think there's something the matter with you.
Bridgwater Art Centre is actually supposed to have been the first centre in the country, so in that sense it's a very interesting model historically.
Thank you.
It has certain problems because it was formed originally as a private club, and I think certain people in the community still see it in that light. So it's quite difficult, in a sense, to bring it into the 1980s.
To the corner, then there's a mile to go round.
Worse? How do you mean?
Worse. Nutty, off his head.
Oh, Graham, really?
Well, I've just been out there
The Art Centre has a very small theatre, which just seats 196 people. The main auditorium is flat-floored, so you can lay it out cabaret style, and you've got the balcony as well. The stage is very, very basic, as is the equipment. We don't have proper sound equipment at all, although the lighting equipment has been updated a bit and is reasonable. In addition to the theatre space, there are 3 meeting rooms which are used by a very wide range of organisations. The large room which we call the studio, which is used primarily for visual arts, for art classes, but is also fine for theatre workshops or indeed music workshops. And then downstairs we have the bar and gallery area. When I came to the Art Centre, it had gone through a very difficult period. It had had financial difficulties and also gone through a fairly extended period of temporary management, and audience numbers had dropped quite drastically, and I think that it was gaining a rather bad image, particularly in the local press. So it's been very much a question of trying to build up confidence again and involving people in the Art Centre, trying to get people practically involved, not just coming in necessarily to see events, but to be involved as volunteers or to be involved in workshop activity.
And on the end where you want it.
Bridgwater is very diverse in that you're catering both for the urban population and for the rural community outside the town. I tend to try and programme in a lot of workshop activity for local groups in an attempt to build a relationship between amateur and professional.
And make sure that this one here comes...
The Art Centre is used hopefully by an increasingly wide section of the community. Like many organisations, it has traditionally probably been used by the middle class. It's quite difficult to get people from the estates on the outskirts of town into the Art Centre. The Art Centre is heavily dependent on our local district council for funding. That's always a difficult area, I think, for any local authority. The The point about arts funding is that most of the professional events which we bring in are really quite expensive. Obviously there are touring costs involved, and if we were actually to charge the full ticket price at cost, then only a tiny section of the local community could take advantage of the service we offer. I feel that subsidy is absolutely critical in an arts organisation of this kind, simply to make the service we provide accessible to the whole range of the local community. The Arts Centre is quite severely underfunded, in fact. The staffing, particularly the lack of a technician, is a real problem. So we're using volunteers for lighting and, if necessary, sound for performances. Volunteers are very important to the centre. One side of the volunteer help is organised by Marjorie Bromley, who actually provides us with front of house staff for each performance. And very importantly, also her volunteers offer accommodation for visiting artists. Again, this is the problem of lack of funding.
But is that just one stitch?
Yeah, that's all. That's only one stitch.
And that fits a button that size?
One of the problems in many arts organisations is that people are tending to provide a service for the same old public. It's the same faces coming over and over again. And what we're trying to do here, certainly, is to build a younger audience.
You want music, kiddies? You want excitement? Nice, exciting, lovely pop music you can dance to?
Within the Arts Centre there were two activities in particular for young people which had rather died a death during the period of temporary management, which was Kids Club on Saturday mornings and the younger youth theatre, although the older youth theatre sheep worrying has always carried on regardless.
Down your car park, putting up a bigger nightclub!
Well, sheep worrying was set up in 1980 as a response to the lack of facilities in the town generally for young people as regards rock music or youth theatre. They just cut back the youth theatre at the time in the council cuts. And young people got together to form their own theatre group which they ran themselves, and rock showcases every month where they get local bands to play and sort of share equipment and cooperate with each other. The management at the time looked upon it, favourably. It ran into a few problems over the years, as some of the people who run the Arts Centre didn't understand it and ended up trying to ban it. But now Rock's on a sound footing at the Arts Centre because they agreed to subsidise it.
I need a girlfriend, so I can take her on dates. I need a girlfriend.
The Arts Centre got a bit of a bad name because a certain amount of rowdyism did go on here, and that's not popular with the public. And its name in Bridgwater deteriorated over the years quite a lot. And now our job is to try and put all that right.
The carnival has been going 380 years this year, and the Arts Centre was established in 1946, so it's a long way to go to getting in the hearts and minds of Bridgwater people. A lot of young people are involved in carnival, and they make the floats, they design them, they do costumes, they sing and dance in the concert. So there is a wealth of, talent there, really. It's a shame that they don't use the Arts Centre at all. They just use the town hall. But the Arts Centre has got good facilities for the rest of the year when carnival isn't on.
I'm awfully keen on the arts, all of the arts that there are. The opera, the theatre, the music and dance. I'd go a lot more if I just had the chance.